All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation right now. Michael Oluwagbemi, the executive partner at LoftyInc, is joining me right here at the table. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Nancy.
Yeah, let's just move straight to the, to the issue of the day. Breaking news: Nigeria restricting entry for countries with travelers from China, and about how many countries did I count? 13 or 15?
13 or 15.
You know.
Yes, I think. I think it's. Good morning again to your guests. I think it's long overdue. The right response during this period, first and foremost, is that we must anticipate the worst, and so we must sort of overreact. That's the only way you can protect yourself from an unseen enemy like a virus. So I think the right response is not to panic, but to overreact. And the response so far, I think we should have done this ban probably a week before, but it's never too late. I think the right response now has been taken. Those countries, and I think there should be continuous surveillance. Now the threshold is 1,000 cases. We might want to consider dropping the threshold as we learn new ways that disease is spreading, because the information we now got today is that this virus actually stays up to, I believe, between 3 to 8 hours on surfaces, more than what was previously anticipated. So as we get more scientific information, we must also reevaluate what is going on. The reality is that the COVID, the corona virus disease 2019 is here to stay, whether we like it or not. And we must protect our people first and foremost, because your people happen to be the base of the economy. And beyond our people also, we must protect our economy directly or indirectly. I think the health authorities have taken the right action. And this must be sustained. Like I said, continuous surveillance. We must, vigilance is really the price of freedom for us.
Yeah, what kind of response do you expect now of tripartite, in the tripartite response? And let me explain what I mean. Because the response I'm saying is perhaps two-pronged approach, two legs, so to speak. From the health authorities, we have briefings from them all the time to tell Nigerians this is what's happening. Then the monetary policy has responded, but it's supposed to be a tripartite thing, because like a coordinated response in terms of health, because the health crisis is dovetailing now into an economic crisis, so to speak, globally. So health authorities, fiscal policy makers, and the monetary policy makers. We're seeing response from the health authorities, but I really don't know what exactly is happening deeply beyond the announcements and all of that. That's for the side of the health authorities. The monetary policy side have responded. We saw Emefiele with his team announcing on Tuesday 50 billion naira credits package through the National Microfinance Bank and some other things attached to it, 6 policy measures. The fiscal policy is yet to even speak. The president is even yet to speak to his people. So what kind of coordinated policy response do we expect at this time? Because people need information.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I have to thank the Minister of Health and the CDC, the FCDC Director General. I think, as well as the Lagos State government and Ogun State government, for their response so far. The reality is that I think they probably gave us 2 to 3 weeks of buffer because of their professionalism. In terms of dealing with this crisis. So the health authorities, I think, have sort of been stilled with the Ebola experience, and we've been prepared, even more, probably more prepared than our counterparts in other countries. Because as far back as 2 to 3 weeks ago, coming back into this country myself, I traveled. While I had traveled through international airports and had no screening whatsoever, going through Nigerian airports and landing in Nigeria, I was properly screened. My information was...
Have you been on isolation, self-isolation?
Well, this was long before this, so I'm very fine. My information was taken. And even 2 to 3 weeks after that, I was traveling, a week after that, I was traveling locally, Ilorin, Akure, local airports, and there was screening going on in those airports, from Abuja to Akure, Abuja to Ilorin, Abuja to Yola. This shows me that the Nigerian authorities actually have a system in place that was activated as soon as this pandemic. So the health authorities, I have nothing but commendation for them. They are not responsible for shutting the border. That's the responsibility of the Ministry of Interior, as well as the President and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs coordinating, and now they've done their own part. The health authorities' own part is to make sure that surveillance is top-notch, as well as the responses when they identify
and all
treatment.
that.
All that. So I think so the Lagos State government, Ogun State government, the federal government to the Ministry of Health and the CDC have done a fantastic job. Now the second part of it is the monetary policy. I think the monetary policy that was announced should be the first step. 50 billion for an economy of $500 billion is very small. All over the world, the Federal Reserve now has more or less opened the tap with almost taking the rate to zero. In our case, I think the response is 50 billion naira. I am open is the first response, not the final and only response. We need additional monetary support. This includes considering cutting the rates. I mean, you cannot, businesses cannot sustain paying high interest rate at this period.
So you mean
of
the
crisis.
benchmark?
The benchmark rate, absolutely,
because
absolutely.
Rate was cut,
yeah,
but on intervention loans.
Exactly. We need a benchmark rate to be looked into very quickly. The MPC needs to convey at some point, and we also need to
next week.
Yes, exactly. And I think we also need to look at other policy measures, including easing accessibility to certain type of loans. Currently, we are limited in Nigeria because of the rules of lending. Most banks are limited to lending money only based on collateral, hard collateral. It's time for us to seriously take a look at balance sheet lending for companies that are in the service business, which they employ 75% of Nigerians. Nigerian economy is dominated by the service sector. But service sectors, they generally don't have hard assets. They don't have plant. They don't have property. They don't have anything to lend money against. So they are sort of a disadvantage when it comes to borrowing money from banks. But the banks tell people in the service business like ourselves, by the way, I'm one of them, that, hey, we can't lend you money because the CBN requires us to have collateral, 125%, 110%. So this is the time for us to look at balance sheet lending, which is standard across the world. If you have a contract with the government agency, if you have a contract with a well-known corporate company that has your invoice coming in every month or every other month, there's no reason why a bank should not be able to extend you credit. At the minimum, some kind of line of credit. So the CBN needs to look at its lending rules as far as lending to service business. Again, I'll go back to it. What is the shape of our economy? Our economy is not undiversified. I keep hearing people talking about diversifying Nigeria's economy. Nigeria's economy is very diversified. What is not diversified is government income. What is not diversified is our source of foreign exchange. Now, you cannot have these two.
Diversification.
Exactly. So we need to diversify our revenue and we need to diversify our source of foreign exchange.
No, but is our economy adequately diversified?
It is diversified. It's 92% non-oil and it's 8% oil sector.
Yes, but even in the non-oil, there are still a lot of sectors that are primitive there.
Absolutely. But you need to, what you need to do, so two things you need to do.
So we're still talking about even that.
Modernization. So what you need to do is to modernize that 92%. In the sense of introducing digital economy, in the sense of making sure that you do your enumeration, capture enough MSMEs, and I will get
even
to that.
Even for the non-oil sector, you see that even agriculture, the way it is.
Informal economy,
it's still informal. There are a lot of subsistence agriculture going on there, and just perhaps crop production.
Absolutely.
How about agro-processing?
And so this is the third part of what
how
we're
about
going
even the mineral part of it?
Absolutely.
Gold, how much do we get from gold? How much do we get from cocoa? How much do we get from barite, for example? So perhaps our country's economy is not as diversified as well as government revenue, because if you get your economy to be diversified, revenue will be diversified.
Not really. This is the way it breaks down. The Nigerian government relies heavily on oil receipts to fund itself. So what you have first and foremost is that the moment this crisis hits, demand for oil across the world falls rapidly. So the Nigerian government immediately starts saying, like this month now, when you look at the amount that will be shared by states, it's probably going to be half of what they shared last month, because oil has gone down from 58 to 30 or 32, thereabout.
28 today.
Exactly. So they will share half. Now, why is the Nigerian government solely dependent on one product for its revenue? One, and secondly, for its forex. Because let us remember, the moment you are collecting money just from NNPC sales of crude oil, from petroleum profit, and all of this, and that's the only thing suddenly you're exposed. However, you have an economy that has 37.5 million consuming households. You have an economy that is largely service-based. That service base is not reflected in your tax collection. We are collecting only 6% of our GDP in taxes. Africa's average is 18 to 19%. World average is 30%. So what we need to do is to look at why are we stuck at 6%? Why? It's simple. There's not enough identity management. A lot of businesses are flying under the radar. The informal economy is bigger than the formal economy. So what we need to do as a government, the government needs to focus on this issue and ensure that we do identity management. We need to merge all the databases very quickly. We need to make sure that every businessman in Nigeria pay their fair share. We need to make sure that we stop a lot of pre-riders, so what we call them. A very narrow group of people in Nigeria pay taxes. And this is the reality. And that burden continues to fall on that group. But what we need to do is to make sure that the vast majority of the economy is formalized, agriculture is formalized, retail is formalized, commercial, modernize that sector so that we can increase our tax receipts.
You know, it's also, and I'm afraid we just need to end this interview very soon.
Sure.
So let's see how much we can take. I said I'm afraid earlier. Why? Because we have about 41.6 million MSMEs. And 41 million of them, I think 41.5 million of them, are micro.
Yep.
So there is a problem that perhaps unemployment is so much in the country, poverty is so much. So most of those businesses, yes, it's a survival strategy. It's a survival mode strategy. So in essence, Nigeria could be termed as like a poor country, because at the end of the day, what you are saying may not really come to fruition, because a lot of us are poor and a lot of us are just on survival tendencies.
Even
the
problem is that it becomes a vicious cycle. Even if you are poor, you must pay your fair share. You understand what I mean? It's a vicious cycle. If you do not pay your fair share, even if you are earning 1 naira and someone is earning 1 billion, and you are required as a business to pay something of some sort of a minimum tax of 5%. Imagine if you are collecting 5% from all the micro businesses. Suddenly you have is a little droplets that make an ocean. And then suddenly you can be able to afford to give them roads. You can be able to give them small business intervention. You can be able to afford to give them infrastructure. So we cannot keep saying that because we are poor, we cannot pay taxes. That culture has to change. The government must come in and ensure that the sectors of the economy are formalized so that we can be able to support the economy. If the government does not have funds, if they don't have revenue, how can they support the economy? The economy is comatose. Now, the second part of it is Forex. And I don't want us to lose this in the conversation when I say, oh yes, you need to formalize the economy and you need to increase government revenue so that you can be able to take care of the population. We have a population of almost 200 million people, and you're only collecting net maybe $2 billion, $3 billion dollars in taxes. That's very bad. So you need more money in order to take care of these people. You need 25% of your economy needs to be spent on infrastructure for you to be able to sustain the current growth. That means Nigeria needs to spend $100 billion every year on infrastructure. Where will you get the money from? Nigerian government's entire revenue today is $30 billion. So that's one part. Now the second part of it is the dollar aspect, the Forex aspect. You need Forex because you need to finance international trade. What Nigeria has done is the over-dependence on oil and gas. It is time for us to get serious about 3 areas that can bring Forex to the country rather quickly. First and foremost, you mentioned agriculture. Now, agriculture that will bring Forex is not the same thing as the agriculture we are doing in Nigeria today. Our overt emphasis on smallholder farmers and smallholder agriculture cannot be the bedrock of a commercial, export-focused agribusiness economy. What we need to do very quickly is that we have more than 385,000 hectares of federal land under the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, the River Basin Development Authorities. They have River Basin Development Authorities across Nigeria, and they have federal lands that are irrigated. These 385,000 hectares of land need to be quickly farmed to produce crops that Nigeria will export. What other countries need? Sesame seeds, cocoa, groundnut, cowpea. All of these products are in demand and will be in high demand across the world because the world now has stopped farming. Nigeria has the second highest proportion of its land that is arable in the world. We should be the food basket of the world. We should not just produce these products. We should also process them and then add value and then export them to the rest of the world. China will take all our cassava. China will take all our sesame seeds. China will take all our groundnuts. So what we need to do is to create an organization that is similar to NNPC for agriculture. We used to have this. We used to call it Nigerian Produce Company. And suddenly all of that was scrapped. We used to have commodity boards. They were scrapped because we suddenly found oil. All these entities need to be brought back. We need to have a company that will say, my work is every year to set targets for commercial farmers and say, look, if you bring me 5,000 tons of groundnut, if you bring me 10,000 tons of cocoa, I will buy it from you at a stated price. And so farmers can just focus on farming all these 385,000 hectares that we have across the country. You bag it, you put it in silos, and you export it, and you get dollars, you get pound sterling, you get yuan, and then you finance the economy. This thing is not difficult. How did Obafemi Awolowo finance free education in the western part of Nigeria? How did Nnamdi Azikiwe finance the old eastern region? Was there oil? There was no oil. It was this agri-produce. They used to have commodity boards. We scrapped all of that in the 70s because we found new oil. So we need to go back to that. We can earn easily $80 billion from that exercise alone. Now, the second part of the economy is the digital economy. Technology is the way of the future now. Now, schools have gone on remote. Almost every school now in the US, in Canada.
But they're still schooling online with their
online,
teachers.
exactly. So that means education is going to change. The way we work is going to change. The way we even travel and communicate will change after this crisis. Everybody will realize that you cannot put all your outsourcing and all your manufacturing in China. You must diversify across the world. So Nigeria must quickly do two things. One, position ourselves for the digital economy. We have 26 million youths that are unemployed. The new Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy should immediately have a program to train our young people, 2.5 million, 5 million young people, en masse across innovation hubs across Nigeria, across universities across Nigeria, train them on different things. Training in AI, robotics, in animation, in software coding, in development. You can train 2.5 million Nigerian youths in the next 6 to 9 months. And the moment the world gets out of the crisis, Nigeria will unleash these young people. They speak English. They are educated. We are capable. Nigerians are smart. If we set the goal today, and I'm telling the minister, Mr. Pantami now, if we set the goal that we want to train 2.5 million youths in these required jobs for the 21st century, for the next 6 months, we have 26 million of them, of which 5 million are graduates. Let us put a call out there. Let us partner with innovation centers. Let's partner with universities. We are going into the long break now. The universities will be empty. Let us put these students and train them. 2.5 million of them. Government should set up a job czar. There should be somebody that have a portal in the Ministry of Digital Economy, even in the President's office. You just need one desk. The guy's job is one thing. Place Nigerian students that are trained in that program across the world. You fly to India, fly to China, fly to United States, fly to Canada, secure long-term contracts. Have these children work remotely for global corporations.
What's
and Nigeria will make lots of dollars from this. So that's another source of forex.
You said 3, 2.
The third one, absolutely. The third one for me is light manufacturing. Like I said, the world, we need to diversify away from China. So today, every product is coming from China, and suddenly everybody is realizing that I cannot finish my car parts, I cannot get textile, I cannot even get gloves, I cannot even get these simple things. What we need to do is in Nigeria, we have cotton, we have plastic, we have massive oil and gas base. Dangote refinery is coming on board. We have massive petrochemical. Those are the two things you need, cotton and petrochemical, to do all of this light manufacturing in textile. We can do light manufacturing of plastics. We can do light manufacturing of pharmaceuticals. All of these things need, also all these export processing zones that we are creating and that we've not found use for. It's time for the CBN to sit down with our industrialists. It's time for the CBN to sit down with our farmers. Let's talk. We have Nigerian farmers.
Why CBN all the time?
It is because at the end of the day, that is the only entity that have free money. They're the only one that can print money. And at the end of the day, let's remember this. To develop this economy, we don't need dollars. To develop the local economy today within Nigeria, we don't need dollars from anywhere. The CBN can just print the money, and they don't even need to give you the money. They can just tell you, if you do this, if you set up your company, I will pay on your behalf to part manufacturer overseas. So we need to leverage what we have. The days of waiting on our hands and hoping that the world is going to come and save us is not going to happen. So these are the areas. Now, I also want to say something about the monetary, the fiscal side. And I think the Minister of Finance had mentioned that they were suspending all borrowing. I think that would be a very bad idea this time. You cannot suspend all borrowing when you already have this borrowing already almost gestating. Why? If you have $22 billion in your coffers today as Nigeria, money borrowed from overseas, it's already money borrowed. Like the owners, the problem is now with the guy that borrowed you, not you with you. You have $22 billion that can support your currency. So we should not at this point, if we've already gotten these agreements almost to the end, it is a counter idea, but it is the right idea at the time of fear. The world is entering a period of low liquidity. Nobody will be available to borrow Nigerian money in the next 6 to 9 months. If you already have people that want to borrow you $22 billion, take it and keep it. I tell my startups now, I have startups under our Innovation Hub program. If any one of you is negotiating with any investor, close it out in the next 2 weeks, collect the money, and let the investor be the one worrying about you, not the other way around. So Nigeria should do the same thing. We should collect the money, ensure this money is in our reserves, so that it can support our foreign trade in the next 10 to 18 months. I don't expect this crisis to last more than 18 months. So, but we need to be prepared for that 18 months.
Okay, just quickly, in 30 seconds, how should states be prepared? Because they will definitely be hit hard. I've been saying it since Monday, and I hope they've been listening. But I saw something in the newspapers today that state government. I said, okay, thank you. I think
they're finally listening. I'm
gingering them small in case they didn't listen. Yeah. But they will definitely be hit hard.
I think states can push for two things. First and foremost, this is the time for the federal government to liberalize petroleum pricing. We are spending too much money subsidizing petroleum in the bad times in the good times when the petroleum product price is high, which shortchanging states in terms of the money.
Normally the price is low now. So normally the pump price should be low.
So this is the time.
And nobody's talking about it.
This is the time for the states.
And there was a time it happened in Nigeria when the pump price went, they brought it down.
So this is the time for states to push for that. They need to, again, nobody can fight their battle. They need to make sure that they are pushing for that now, and then make sure that the federal government no longer controls that price. So when the price goes up, the consumers have to feel it. The same way they're going to get a cut right now. So the states must make sure that this is done. This is the time to implement those kind of policy measures that will structurally change your economy forever. Number two, states must also find ways to negotiate with the federal government now to suspend their repayments of the monies that were previously borrowed. So they borrowed some money under this former state support program, but I know the NLNG dividends are supposed to be paid any moment from now. The states should ensure that they can get some kind of accommodation from the federal government to tie them over now. Thirdly, states are the ones that have the leverage the most when you talk about revenue collection in Nigeria. The federal government is limited largely to corporate income tax and petroleum profits and a few other mineral resources. But states have consumption tax, they have PE, they have all these juicy source of revenue. This is a time for states to get serious about revenue collection, about formalizing their economy and ensuring they're prepared for the rainy day.
Anyway, but all these monies we are saying that states could take, let's also be careful that they are not just taking for consumption, paying salaries
Absolutely.
for production.
It's for production, it's for infrastructure, it's for expanding the economy. And at the end of the day, all of us say that, oh, it's the job of the states or anything. At the end of the day, it's the job of you and I. We are the citizens. The biggest and the largest and the topmost office in this land is the office of the citizen of Nigeria. And we must continue to push for the right thing.
I hope we realize that.
Absolutely.
But because it's like when the leaders are trying to come into position, they tell you, oh, you are the best. Oh, you are the person we want to serve. Oh, we respect the office of the citizen. But when they get in there,
they forget.
Is it that they forget or they turn to?
We must learn to punish them.
Anyway, all right. Thank you very much for coming on the program today.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Michael Oluwagbemi, who is the executive partner at LoftyInc. We've been looking at the economy so far, perhaps as we will begin to stay away COVID-19. All right, it's another Wednesday again. Just before we go, let's launch the CBN Weekly segment. In case some of you have not seen what happened on Tuesday concerning the monetary policy side, bringing out the stimulus measures for the economy. I announced earlier on $50 billion through the NISAL Microfinance Bank. In fact, there were 6 policy measures. So take a listen to Godwin Emefiele as he was announcing that and answered some hard questions from those of us that were there at the meeting. So I will see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. Yes, I'll see you all tomorrow. Be the best you can be the change you want to see. And don't forget, wash your hands regularly. Wash your hands. Please, wash your hands with soap and water. If you can't, get a sanitizer that has above 60% alcohol base to sanitize your hand. But when you can, wash your hand with soap and water. And please also social distancing. Social distancing. We're very social oriented. Yes, social distancing, about 5 meters or so. Just say your hello from afar so that we can all fight this COVID-19. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye now.